Hello, I'm Adam from FTC Team 14892 Venom out of Georgia, and today I'm going to be talking about types of FTC motors. So the three most common REV motors are Core Hex Motor, HD Hex Motor, the Ultraplanetary. REV produces the most used parts in the FTC community, and lots of the REV parts that are created are wrapped around these three types of motors. Other types of motors would be the Andy Mark Neverest, Yellow Jacket Planetary, and Vex EDR 393 motor. First up, we got the Core Hex motor, which is manufactured by REV. It only has one kind of gearbox, and that gearbox cannot be swapped out. Some of the pros would be that it can use any hex shaft length, and it's easy to mount and build around. On the right, you can see a picture that will show how a Core Hex motor can be mounted. Some cons would be that it has a poor power output, and it can be loud. Now, the Core Hex motor is meant to be used on mechanisms that don't require much torque. Next up, we got the HD Hex motor, which is also manufactured by REV, and it comes in two different types of gearboxes, a 20-to-1 or a 40-to-1. There's 150 RPM on the 40-to-1 gearbox and 300 RPM on the 20-to-1 gearbox. Some pros would be that it uses the common hex shaft, and it has a high stall torque. A con would be that it has somewhat low of an RPM. The hex motor is good for slower drivetrains on heavier robots or mechanisms that require high torque. Next, we got the Ultraplanetary, which is lastly manufactured by REV, and it comes with a 5-to-1, 4-to-1, and 3-to-1 gear reductions that can be easily placed under the motor. It is free spinning at 6,000 RPMs, and some of the pros is that it also uses the common hex shaft, and it has a high RPM. Cons would be that it has a low stall torque, even with gearbox reductions, making it not suitable for drivetrains. It's meant more for flywheels, intakes, or conveyor systems. The Neverest is manufactured by Andy Mark and comes with a 40-to-1 or 60-to-1 gearbox. There's 105 RPM on the 60-to-1 gearbox or 160 RPM on the 40-to-1 gearbox. Some pros would be that it's compatible with both Tetrix and Andy Mark parts, and some of the cons would be that it has a low RPM and can easily break if too much stress or weight is required of the motor because the Neverest does not have a high stall torque. It's best for lighter robot drivetrains. The 60-to-1 gearbox has a higher stall torque and can carry a higher weight, but the robot will move slower. Next up, we got the Yellow Jacket Planetary, which is manufactured by GoBuilda. It has almost every gearbox that would be needed for every situation in FTC. So the pro would be that it can be used in almost every situation. Some of the cons would be that it's made by a separate manufacturer from most FTC parts because GoBuilda mostly just relies on its own parts for the robots that are created by GoBuilda, and the parts are very expensive. Now, the Yellow Jacket Planetary can be used for every mechanism, but if you use the Yellow Jacket Planetary on drivetrains, use all GoBuilda parts on the drivetrain, including wheels, gears, sprockets, and structural pieces, and more, if you want to avoid more issues down the line. Next up, we got the 393 motor, manufactured by Venom-Robotics. I would not suggest for FTC as a motor. It can be used as a servo, but REV servos would be a better option. It's recommended to only use structural pieces or wheels made by Vex for FTC, and not the drivetrain pieces, such as gears and motors. We have a review chart that we created for y'all to be able to use throughout the season to be able to reference when you want to know when to use what type of motor in different situations. I wish y'all the best of luck this year, and I hope y'all will be able to find this video useful.